Time for the hot topic of the hour. President Biden telling reporters he's not the only candidate to beat former President Trump in the upcoming election after insisting on running, all while his campaign says it's, quote, perplexed by the hubbub after the president casts doubt about running against Trump. Watch this.
Do you think there is any Democrat who could defeat Donald Trump other than you?
Probably 50 of them.
You do believe that there are?
I'm not the only one to defeat him, but I will defeat him.
I will defeat him. And this, of course, on the heels of his comment earlier in the week, Joe Burrell, I want to get your reaction, when he basically went off script and said this. Watch this.
Would you be running for president if Trump wasn't running?
I expect so, but look, he is running, and I have to run.
Would you drop out if Trump runs out?
No, not now.
Well, I think somebody gave him a talking point.
Yeah, I mean, first he said, I don't know if I would be running if Trump weren't running. And then he sort of massaged that answer. And then Trump responded to it, obviously, Joe.
Right. This is not the first time that President Biden has said something that was totally not incongruent to something he had said the day before, the week before.
Yeah. Well, somebody talked to him after he said, I wouldn't be running if Trump were running. Right.
And I just look back through Real Clear Politics to see if there has been any poll of any other Democratic contender against Donald Trump, and there really hasn't been. I tend to think that he is in a worse place today than he was just a few weeks and a few months ago. That's not to say that there's not enough time for him to turn it around, but when you have gaffes like this, where you don't know whether you're the best candidate, you don't know where there's other people in the Democratic Party who could beat Donald Trump, when at the same time they're all kind of nipping at your heels, the Gavin Newsoms of the world, I think you've got a real problem. And I think the president doesn't know what direction he wants to go in.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that he's exposed himself as far as what this election really means to him. I mean, because he's saying, I wouldn't be in this race if Trump weren't in the race. That's not what the people want. The people want you to say, I'm in this race because I want to get America to the next level. I want to continue to see progress for the American people.
Because I love this country and I want to see it.
Not that it's about Trump.
Right. So that inspires zero confidence as the leader of the free world. Really not sure I'd be running. That's completely idiotic for him to say.
Well, that's why they got in his ear.
Correct,
and he had to massage it second time around.
You know, he mentioned 50 Democrats could beat Trump.
Yeah, who are these 50 Democrats?
But he also said, I'm running because I have to beat Trump.
Right.
Well, why don't you step aside and let one of those 50 run then? And I'll tell you why. It's because the number one prospect, Gavin Newsom, was completely awful in his debate against Ron DeSantis. Didn't answer a single question. Just kept pivoting and parroting his talking points.
Now, I wonder if they're actually afraid that the walls are closing in on this impeachment inquiry and this investigation into Biden family influence peddling. And that's why he knows that if he's not running for president, if he's not president, there could be serious issues, perhaps.
Right. And I think it also goes to show that Democrats aren't even attempting to offer voters their own platform. They simply care about being the anti-Trump candidate.
Yep.
That's the only defining standard that they have right now. And I think Biden assumes that that's the way to win because it's how he campaigned in 2020 and it's how he was elected in the first place. But now the polls have shifted and you have him losing to Trump in a number of key swing states for really the first time in Trump's polling history. So this is a significant shift. And you're right. I would love to know who are the Democrats that Biden thinks could
who are
beat
these
Trump.
50?
Because it's not Kamala Harris. It's not any of the other, runner-ups. It's not Gavin Newsom. And I think that if there were a Democrat who could beat Trump, he would be the nominee. It wouldn't be Joe Biden because Joe Biden's poll numbers are abysmal. They have been abysmal for the past 2 years.
Well, now you've got several Democrat analysts sounding the alarm on a more grim outlook for President Biden, and that's because of the polling. It shows support in key voter groups declining. A new survey from Democracy Corps and PSG Consulting finding blacks, Hispanics, Asians, the LGBTQ plus community, Gen Z, millennials, unmarried and college women, giving former President Trump higher approval ratings than Biden, Kayleigh, because they're looking at what we're looking at, policy and the impact on our lives.
Yeah, and I think the two demographics to really watch are minority voters, blacks and Hispanics, and Gen Z voters. I'm really interested to see what the youth vote ends up doing in 2024, because if you think back to 2020, voters my age, Gen Z, turned out in large numbers for Biden, almost unanimously.
Well, he told them he was going to forgive all their student debt.
But even after he tried to push through student loan debt forgiveness, the most recent New York Times poll found that just 7% of Gen Z voters still approve of Joe Biden. I don't think that they're going to vote for him again. I don't know if that translates to a vote for Trump. I think that more likely they just end up staying home. But even if that happens among enough young voters, if that happens enough Black and Hispanic voters, Joe Biden still loses either way.
I just can't believe the way he's still pushing this idea that he's going to forgive everybody's student loan debt, Joe. And the Supreme Court has already said it's unconstitutional. But he's still trying to fly this out there to lure in young people.
He's searching for issues to appeal to these core demographics. And it goes back to what Mark said. I mean, there is no vision for the future. People either vote retrospectively on what you've done or prospectively on what you're going to do. We know retrospectively, looking back, the president's not going to have a good record to run on. Bidenomics didn't work. It's not going to work 11 months from now when the election rolls around. He has to offer people some new ideas, some new vision, and frankly, I know it, you know it, the Democratic Party knows it. He is not the person to give them a forward footing, a forward-leading vision that would rally these bases back to their party.
So what's the strategy then? Go on TikTok and do your ad campaign on TikTok.
It's to go back in the basement.
Yeah, go back in the basement, but also the Democrats want to use TikTok, even though we're hearing from governors across the country that this is another national security threat because of surveillance.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the 2020 election or the 2022 midterms when Barack Obama was hiding under the desk on TikTok. I don't know if you remember that video or not, but it wouldn't be the first time they've gone to TikTok to push their marketing information. What did President Biden say a few years ago? If you don't vote for Biden, you ain't black.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
You look at the Black Voices for Trump group; it is growing at an incredible pace.
Yeah.
I mean, Bidenomics.
The founder of Black Lives Matter is voting Trump. Did you
Really?
see that the other day?
Oh, yes, I did see that. Okay. But look, when you have, Michael Rappaport and Cardi B starting to say, like, this is not good, things are crazy, Bidenomics disproportionately affects lower income people. It's not helping grow from the, what does he say, the bottom up and the middle out? It's not doing that.
It's not.